Well, today's the day. Winter has finally hit us. The chipper vac has been retired for the season. We got this thing for free, and it was really wrecked. I put it back together as good as I could, and it got us through the summer. We chipped a ton of crap through this thing, vacuumed up a ton of leaves with it, but the engine is getting really tired. When we got it, it was sick, and we kind of put heavier oil in it and fixed it up a little bit, put a new head gasket on it, but it's hurting. It's blowing oil through the breather. It's got poor compression, so I'm going to finally take this thing apart and rebuild this engine. Okay, got the gas tank off, got the oil out. Start taking this thing apart. First we'll get the recoil cover off of it. My 1/2 inch. Alright. This is pretty much going to be a total rebuild here. We don't need to get this running until next spring, so and I've got all the gaskets and stuff upstairs, so why not, right? Come on, baby. There we go. Well, the lifters are out. There we go. That's the other lifter. Camshaft looks okay. Lift is alright. Alright. Okay, there is a mark where this thing goes. Looks fine. Let's push the piston out. Well, the gaps were lined up pretty good, and that's a sure way to lose some compression. So we'll take these off of here and measure the ring gaps. We'll also take the valves out. Try not to damage this head gasket. Alright, taking the rings off here. I've already got the first one off, and it's not really looking too good for this thing. The problem is that the ring gap is pretty much right at the spec. It's a 20,000 spec on the rings, and they're at 18 thousandths. 10 to 20 is the spec. So what I did is I put the ring in the bore there, and use the piston to push it down. So I'm going to try to get these off of here. This can sometimes be tricky here with this last one because it's a fat one. And sometimes you bust them. But I'm not really all that worried about it because the rings are not really all that great on this engine. So pull this ring off of here. Okay. Now, so on this engine there's 2 compression rings and 1 oil control ring. So what you do is you take the ring and you put it in the bore like that, and then you use the piston to push it down halfway. And what that does is it squares it up in the bore, and then you can measure the gap. Now I got a 20 thousandths feeler here, and yeah, it's going in there. No problem. So these rings are out of spec. Let's just see how bad. Here's a 25 thousandths feeler. Um, 25 won't go. So it's over spec, but not by much. Let's try 22. Yep, 22 goes. Yep, 22. So the ring gaps are way out of spec here. This is supposed to be 10 to 20 and they're 22. That's why it's blowing oil. I have to get some new rings. Let's just for yucks put the oil ring in here. Push that down. About halfway down the cylinder. And see if this one's over 20. Oh, this one's way over 20. This one's probably closer to 30. Here's a 25. Let's check this out. Way over 25. Let's see. Here's a 30. Okay, it's over 30. It's way out of spec. So we're going to have to get some new rings for this engine. I'm going to go upstairs and look and see if I have any. I kind of doubt it. This is an H50 Tecumseh engine, 5 horse. So may have to order some of this. But, well, there's your problem. The rings are shot. That one's right on. Okay, that one's right on. So it looks like there's a taper in the bore here. It's not ovaled out at all, but I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to do anything to the bore. The rings were totally shot, so I'm going to have to do something about that. The problem is that I don't have any rings upstairs that'll fit this engine, and anything other than standard rings is unavailable. So you can't get 10 over rings. Let's see what the piston is. Okay, 2.620. The spec limit on the piston. Okay, we're looking at 2.619. Piston diameter, bottommost skirt. 2.621. So that's 2 thousandths. Let's see what the limit is. Yeah. Okay, so this engine is pretty freaking tired, man. I don't know if it's going to be worth fixing at this point because can't get the parts. If I could get a set of rings that was 10 over, I could bore this out, but I'm gonna have to look online a little more and see what's available. But I hate to probably spend 20 or 14 bucks on rings and have this thing still be puking like crazy. All right, well I'm gonna take some more measurements here and see if I can come up with a plan. All right, well I've made extensive measurements on this thing. The piston is almost at the limit. It's still within spec. The bore is at the limit. So I'm going to go ahead and put some rings in this thing. It's going to be a sloppy engine, but you know, that's the way it goes. I mean, you can only do so much. We'll get it running again. It's going to be running better than it was because these ring gaps are out of control. So I guess I'll get back with you when we get some rings ordered. Okay, we're back, and we have finally gotten our new ring set from Sten's. And man, let me tell you, it's been a nightmare trying to get these things. First of all, they do not make oversized rings for this engine. So, bottom line is, you know, I assume that these rings that were in there were worn, and the best I could do was putting brand new standard rings in. Now I've already measured the ring gaps on these, and they are within spec, but they're at the top end of the spec, which tells me that the cylinder bore is worn as well. But there's nothing I can do about that. I mean, if I take any more metal out of the bore, the gaps are going to get bigger. So I just got to live with it, what I got. They'll be better. The old oil ring, for example, had a 40 thousandths gap in it, and the new oil ring has a 20 thousandths gap. The top end of the spec is 20 thousandths, so it's probably going to be okay, or well, it'll at least be better. And hope for the best. But it should be burning less oil than it was, which was the main problem with this. Okay, so we got a ring compressor here, and we got some engine oil, just 1040. Nothing special here. And we're gonna lube up this piston. And put her in. Okay, I'm just making sure the ring gaps are okay. Okay, so that's how you compress the rings. Okay. Oh, this thing's going to have much better compression, I can tell already. So let's get the dipper and the end cap now. I'm going to use some assembly lube here. Okay, that's looking good. All right, we're ready for the camshaft. And we're going to put a little lube on this. Put it on the lobes. And also put it on the shaft ends. Make sure everything's all good here until the oil starts flying around. Okay. We'll put some juice on these too. Here's one. Okay, there's the other. Now we'll put Mr. Camshaft in. Find that dot. There we go. That's what it's supposed to look like. This dot right there, and that little hash mark right there have to line up. Okay. We are ready for gaskets. All right, now we got to do is put the bolts in. All right, well, we've made a pretty good improvement on this thing. I just temporarily bolted the head on here, but, you know, went up from like 50 to 80 psi before and after the ring, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's do it one more time here, just for yucks. Yeah, it's about, well, actually it's about 90 psi. So that's a good improvement. I mean, double the compression. It's an old tired engine, so I'm pretty happy with how it worked out. Get a few more years out of it. Problem with these shredder engines is they have enormous crankshafts in them. I mean, I have 10 horsepower engines upstairs, but they don't have these big crankshafts on them. So, you know, you really can't do much. Anyways, this is a 5-horse Tecumseh. It's ancient, it's tired. But hopefully by putting them rings in there, you know, obviously we raised the compression up considerably, and the big problem was it was burning oil like crazy. And like I said, the old rings had an enormous, the oil control ring had an enormous gap in it. This one is within spec, but it's on the high end. So yeah, it's the best we can do with this one. Anyways, I'm just gonna basically put this together because unfortunately the other half of this thing is out in the shed, and the shed, it has a foot of snow out there, so I can't really get the bottom half of this back into the shop to put the engine back together on it. So we'll just you know, put it back together as good as we can, get the recoil cover on, get the gas tank on, that kind of stuff, and then you know, next spring when our snow melts, we'll put the thing back together and see how she runs. So thanks for watching. Okay, we got some oil in there, we got some gas in there. We get the tweezy thing on the throttle here. So let's see if this thing's going to kick. I would say that that is a success. Alright, this thing is ready to go back on the chipper when we get that thing out of the shed. Thanks for watching. the crap out of that. Alright, well, I don't know, man. These things, these chipper shredders, they are scary machines. So, that was nuts. You know, I kind of wish I had made a video of that thing, how bad it was before, but that is running a whole lot better than it ever did. So, looks like we jacked up the compression and got a few more horses out of that old tired thing. I'm telling you, I love shoving crap into that thing, man. It's all right. Thanks for watching.